Chapter 7. Classroom Communication. Language and Culture in the Classroom.
Today's lecture deals with the topic of language, culture, and communication in classrooms in the United States. Samovar and Porter, in their book Intercultural Communication, define communication as a form of human behavior that results from a need to interact with other human beings. As a result of this need, we send verbal and nonverbal messages to communicate with both friends and strangers. Communications can take the form of talk, or it can take the form of gestures, or nonverbal signals of one kind or another. The talk or signals send messages that communicate a person's thoughts, feelings, and intentions to others. Many scholars study the topic of communication in general, and speech communication specifically, in order to learn how individuals send and interpret messages. A number of these scholars conduct research on the topic of intercultural communication. That is, they study communication between people from different cultures. One area of research in intercultural communication is the study of the influence of the setting or environment on the success and/or failure of communication. In this lecture, I will be talking about one specific aspect of intercultural communication. That is, intercultural communication that takes place in the classroom. This information is taken from a book chapter written by Janice Anderson and Robert Powell titled Intercultural Communication and the Classroom. It appeared in Samovar and Porter's edited book, Intercultural Communication. When you are asked to picture a classroom in your mind's eye, what do you see? You probably see a classroom that is familiar to you and that would be familiar to students from your culture. However, not everyone will see the same picture in their minds. Although many people have similar images of what a classroom looks like in their mind's eye, their culture greatly influences the way they view the teacher-student relationship, and culture also influences how a person understands the ways in which information is taught and learned in the classroom. Culture also plays an important role in determining how teachers and students communicate in the classroom. In this lecture, I'll give you a few examples of some of the ways that culture affects this communication. The classroom, as we know it, by the way, is a relatively recent innovation, according to Janice Anderson and Robert Powell. Great teachers like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and Confucius taught without the benefit of a board, chalk, desks, the standard comforts or discomforts of a classroom building. But let me return to the main topic of this lecture: the influence of culture on behavior and communication between teacher and students in the classroom. If you have come from another culture to study in the United States, you may already have noticed that teachers and students in American universities interact and communicate in the classroom in the ways that differ from how teachers and students communicate in your home culture. It's culture that influences and establishes these interactions and communication patterns. Of course, culture is a term that is used in many different ways. Basically, culture provides us with a system of knowledge that allows us to communicate with others and teaches us how to interpret their verbal and nonverbal behavior. Culture influences and establishes how people interact with one another, or do not interact with one another. In particular, culture influences the rituals that take place in the classroom setting, and it influences the way that students participate in the classroom discourse. It also influences the esteem in which teachers are held. Just what exactly are rituals? Well, I'll give you a dictionary definition to begin with. Rituals are systematic procedures used to perform a certain act or to communicate a certain message. Well, there are many rituals associated with teaching and learning, and education in general. Rituals are systematic procedures used to perform a certain act or to communicate a certain message. In some countries, when a teacher enters the classroom, the students ritually stand up. In the United States, a ritual occurs when a student raises her hand to signal the teacher that she knows the answer to a question. This is not a universal classroom ritual to signal intent to answer a question, however. Jamaican students snap or flap their fingers to signal that they want to answer a question that has been posed. In some college and graduate level seminars in American universities, students do not make any physical signs when they want to speak. They state their ideas whenever they feel the urge or when it's appropriate. This sort of classroom behavior is especially confusing to students from cultures in which there are no rituals for attracting the teacher's attention, because the student is not expected to participate in the class at all. This brings us to the issue of classroom participation. North American students of European origin are usually more talkative in class and more willing to state their opinions than students of Native American heritage or from Asian backgrounds. This difference is directly related to cultural values about learning and education and classroom behavior. Euro-American students' cultures teach them that learning is shaped and helped by their talk and active engagement in exploring or discussing issues. Asian students, however, are generally taught that they will learn best by listening to and absorbing the knowledge being given to them by the teacher. In their article, Anderson and Powell point out that some cultures do not have a way for students to signal a desire to talk to a teacher. In these cultures, students speak out only after the teacher has spoken to them. Most classroom interaction in Vietnam is tightly controlled by the teacher, according to Anderson and Powell. The esteem in which teachers are held also varies from culture to culture. According to researchers Samovar and Porter, the Vietnamese have a great deal of respect for their instructors and consider them to be honored members of society. The Vietnamese and many other Asian peoples see the teacher, the instructor, and the professor as the very symbol of learning and culture. In Germany, students value the personal opinions of their instructors, and it is not customary to disagree with or contradict a teacher during class. Israeli students, on the other hand, can criticize an instructor if they feel that he or she is wrong about an issue, or they believe has provided incorrect information, according to Samovar and Porter. There are many other ways that culture can affect interaction and communication between teachers and students in the classroom. I have discussed differences in how students get the teacher's attention during class, and I have pointed out the differences in the way students from various cultures participate and communicate with the teacher during class. From this brief consideration of classroom communication, you should begin to see that learning a language involves more than studying the vocabulary, idioms, and the grammar of the language. If you are to succeed in communicating in a second language classroom, you need to learn not only the language spoken in the classroom, but also the expected procedures of classroom participation and communication. That is, the rituals of language, culture, and communication.